Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here's your host, Joe Kuzma.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I am here once again all by my lonesome, but that's kind of intentional. I have a little bit of a little pet project here today, a little bit of a personal thing, a tradition that I do every year, and I want to share it with all of yous out there because I'm not sure I've done this before. And it kind of gets under my skin every year. I don't know. It's kind of almost like torture, but I pick up this issue of Lindy's Sports Pro Football 2021 preview right here. As you can see, Big Ben on the cover. They make these for like every single team in the National Football League, except for the fact that in the greater Cincinnati market, they have the Browns and the Bengals both on them, and it's the same thing up in Northeast Ohio. Sorry, Browns and Bengals fans, you don't get your own cover. You're still not good enough yet. And I know there's some people who have been floating in here on the show on both ends. But before I get into this magazine, I'm going to be pulling this up. I'm going to be flipping through pages. I wish I could make a bookmark. I don't want to give away the entire contents of this, but it came out about a week ago. Middle of June every year. Lindy Sports, they have annuals. They have them for like every sport. They have it for college football. They even have a fantasy only one now. And there's various many ones that have that come out to Athlon Sports, Sporting News, and I've gotten those through the years. But Lindy's, and I still have, I recently moved. I still have my last 3 copies, including this one. So the previous 2 years, I have 2019 and 2020 still sitting around. I still have the other ones boxed or put in storage somewhere, probably going back a good 15 to 20 years. And it's fun. It is so much fun going back. Some of the pages are already yellowed that are in it. You know what I mean? It's fun going back and taking a look at, oh man, yeah, remember that. Remember this guy. Remember this player. Everybody was high on them, down on them. It always seems like they're kind of down on the Steelers for whatever reason. I know it's my Steelers bias as always, but the previous 2 years I just looked at was kind of interesting because the 2019, they had the Steelers finishing, was it second in their division and then third last year, or may have it flipped, but it's still kind of interesting looking at that after the Steelers had the 13-3 season. They still thought after falling out of the playoffs, they weren't going to amount to a hill of beans. I'm sorry, the 2018 team flamed after that. And then that's why they felt it wouldn't be amount to a hill of beans, because they were losing Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and, the whole mess that went on with that. It's fun looking back on that. It seems like such an afterthought, and you look at it and it's like, wow, that was only like, the 3 issues ago, 2 years ago, because we still don't know what's going on with 2021. And this is a preview. And a lot of times, I flipped right to the Steelers section. That has to be just by sheer brilliant luck on my part. And they rate all of the different categories here. I won't read you everything that's in the absolute issue. I don't want to give it away for free. This thing retails for 11 smackaroos if you're in the United States. Canadian dollars, a couple more, $12.99 to $10.99, and the Canadian dollar, the loonie and the toonie, right? So if you don't know what that is, then don't look at me real funny. Look that up. Google that. Ray Fittipaldo, Pittsburgh Sports Media, writes this. Ed Bichette for many years used to write some of the synopsis that was in here as well. And it's a pretty good 3-4 pages here on the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've always liked these books. Each division gets a page kind of dedicated to them. So you get a paragraph on the team. They talk about the draft. They kind of grade some of that. They go back, wins per year, what the teams have done, what some of the former draft picks are. They break down the position groups, the schedule's in here, some key stats and stuff, coaching staff. So there's a lot of good info. It's just funny for me when I go through and I look at all this and I'm comparing it. I'm going to tell you what they've rated all the different Steelers stuff. I'll kind of give it a little bit of review. And then at the back end of this issue, there's a rating the teams kind of guide. And I'm going to compare what they've done with everyone, because I just think this is just preposterous, some of this. And I'm going to PO some Browns fans again as part of this, because it just stick it in my craw. I'm sorry. And they got to play the games. I got to see something happen here. So I'm chewing for some football. As you can see, I got the training camp cap on because apparently I'm not going to be able to get another one for a while, or I'm not going to be able to wear it for a while. Well, I don't know. I'm kind of being down on myself about the whole thing. I guess they're still going to have fans at Heinz Field. So anyways, getting into the Steelers coaching. Let's just go into the ratings first. I'll go into the draft. I'll compare to some of the other teams. It's just kind of funny what they feel about certain teams, what they feel about the Steelers. Actually, what was it about the division? Let's just do the Steelers first. That's good. And then we'll go to the division because I got a lot of things to say about that, things to get off my chest as I'm reading this. And I wanted to share it with all of you because it's just, it's too much fun. It's kind of funny. And don't send Lindy's hate mail on my behalf. This is something every year where I'm just not going to agree necessarily with everything they have. They have the Steelers. I believe they say the Steelers are projected to finish third in the AFC North. Now, if you've been listening to me and Zach kind of cover the rest of the AFC North schedules, we said that's actually a very plausible outcome for this season. And it could be anywhere first to third. Any of these three teams, when we're talking about the Ravens and Browns in the mix. Sorry, Bengals, I still don't think you're quite there yet. They give the coaching for the Steelers, Mike Tomlin and his staff, an 8, which is a higher rating. You don't get many 9s and 10s in this magazine, but it seems like me with rating craft beer on Untapped, I kind of started at 3. It goes 1 to 5 on the craft beer, and I give a lot of 4s because I feel that's above average. I feel like 3's average. Anything below is that, and it's kind of like the 1 to 10 scale here when you have an 8. Okay, that's going to be better than a lot of the teams in the league. How's that favorably compared to everyone else? Well, we'll get to that shortly. So, quarterbacks, surprisingly, an 8. I thought they would have really ragged on Ben Roethlisberger and company here, but they feel pretty good about that. The running back situation they have as a 7, and the receivers, which also includes the tight ends, at a 7.5. That one I got a little bit of a problem with because we've got Juju Smith-Schuster here. You've got Deontay Johnson, who breaks a lot of tackles. I understand he has some drop issues he's working on. James Washington, Ray McLeod is a specialist. You got Eric Ebron, the tight end. You got Pat Freiermuth, second-round draft pick, who factors to be I think he's going to be an impact player, immediate threat. I don't know, but definitely a weapon. And then there's also Chase Claypool, my buddy here, that's hosting the pro youth football camp. I'm typing that in, chaseclaypoolcamp.com if you've forgotten about it. Maybe you haven't heard about this. If you have a youngster that's interested in the Chase Claypool Youth Football Camp presented by Pro Camps, that's July 21st. That's coming up. That's right around the corner. That's at the Cornell School in Coraopolis, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh if you're not familiar with the area. But if you happen to make some plans for some of the training camp festivities that will be happening, some of the open practices that they will have, you might be able to link up with this date on July 21st. It's open to boys and girls grades 1 through 8, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So check that out, chaseclaypoolcamp.com. Promo code SteelCity. That'll get you a discount on it too. Each attendee receives, obviously, it's an exclusive experience because there is limited capacity. The event's held in accordance with all local COVID-19 guidelines and restrictions. There's a 10-to-1 maximum camper to coach ratio. And, of course, the youngsters come away with something. They'll get a souvenir autograph from Chase Claypool. The item is provided. No outside items, so don't go buying this, bringing your nephew, somebody you're barely related to, a second cousin that happens to be like an 8th grader, just to try and get him to sign a helmet. That's not what this is for. There's like a team photo and a t-shirt and some different things that are available here. ChaseClaypoolCamp.com. That is promo code SteelCity. Sorry. I want to make sure I don't forget about that while I'm mentioning the wide receivers, because I was looking, it's like Juju, Chase Claypool, 7.5. 7.5 is what the Lindy's Pro Sports 2021. Once again, what I'm reading here, 7.5 for the receivers. I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that. You'll see what I'm getting at here shortly as I bring up some of the other position groups and other teams as well. Offensive linemen, okay, this is probably fair. A 6. Okay, we'll take it on the chin there. We know what's going on there. The defensive lineman, an 8. I think the defensive lineman could be rated a little bit higher too, especially when you got Stephon Tuitt second in sacks on the entire team, double digits. I don't think there's enough respect there when you're bringing the entire group back once again. The linebackers still get an 8 despite the loss of Bud Dupree. Could that be high? I'm high on Alex Highsmith. We know Devin Bush is an excellent player. Vince Williams returns. TJ Watt, maybe the best in the business right now. So that should skew some of the ratings. The secondary, 6.5, I feel could be a little bit low. I mean, we noted that here that Mike Hilton and Steven Nelson are both gone. So this is, precipitated on the fact that it might be Cam Sutton or James Pierre as the guys filling in there. Totally overlooks, I think, Minka Fitzpatrick and Joe Hayden's abilities, as well as Terrell Edmonds' breakout year last year. I don't know. I don't think that that's necessarily a fair indication here, specifically when you start to get into some of the other teams and some of the things that some of the players, some of the experience make us an all-pro. 6.5. When you're talking about, you're talking about the group, but we're really talking about 4 or 5 players, the starters, maybe your nickel corner. It seems a little low for me. Special teams, a 7. That might be a little generous. I don't know. Ray McLeod seems to be the one that kind of brings this group up a little bit. Cam Canada, 6th season with the Steelers already. That's just, wow. Hard to believe Greg Warren's been retired for that long. Chris Boswell, strong season, 19 of his 20 field goal attempts and 94% over the past 2 seasons. After a lot of you had the pitchforks and torches out to cut him. I got to bring that up. Maybe not all of you. You guys are great listeners, especially the 2%ers that hang around to the end of the show. So we know who they are, the water cooler talkers. Do we still have water cooler talk? Do people still go to the office? We're getting back to that maybe. They have another section that's called Intangibles. They call it Even. I'm going to read the little blurb about this. A little bit of wet your beak here. Some important players accepted reduced salaries to return as the Steelers struggled to put together their roster with their salary cap decreasing. Roethlisberger was the biggest name among the players to take a pay cut, but he was not alone. Linebacker Vince Williams was cut in March to save $4 million on the cap and was re-signed in April, while nose tackle Tyson Alualu turned down a more lucrative free agent offer in Jacksonville to remain with the team. The Steelers clearly value continuity and familiarity when it comes to building a roster, but hanging on to aging veterans in their 30s can be risky too, so they give them an even here. It's usually a -1 or a +1. And the aging veterans, they have this really cool, this is the meat of this whole, every team has this. You can't really see it. It's in real fine print. In bold are like the projected starters, every position group, and all of the top players coming into camp. So this is a little more than 53 players usually listed on this page, and it have like a one-liner about everyone that's in here. Like, for example, Chase Claypool, I was just talking about, big play target, averaged a team best 14.1 yards per catch as a rookie. Eric Ebron caught 5 touchdown passes, but drops and poor blocking remain a concern. So there's like a little tidbit of everyone. And that's really the meat and potatoes of this book, and you get to go through and, there's teams that I make, like New York Giants. I'm like, do I follow the Giants enough? No. I pick up this book. I get a little bit of some extra knowledge, and I'll probably pick up another guide from somewhere else too. But this is just my favorite one. My uncle got me on this, my Browns fan uncle. And he likes it, and they also tell you some of the players that are coming into camp at the very bottom that they might not have something more to elaborate on. But, like, for example, in the specialists, they also list the Steelers' 7th-round draft pick, Presley Harvin. The third here is the Ray Guy Award winner. So a lot of players get acknowledged here. But the intangibles, for me, I look up and down at the roster, the Steelers roster, and aging veterans. Well, what does that mean? On the defensive line, Cam Hayward's getting up there. We know that. The oldest guy by far on this team is Ben Roethlisberger. He's the same age as me, 39. Probably has trouble getting out of bed even more than I do from, it's not like he gets hit as much as he used to, but come on, football, he's been playing football for a career his whole life. It takes a toll on the body. Tyson Alualu is the next guy. He's 34. This isn't like decrepit by any means. The Steelers have one of the younger rosters in the NFL. When you pull like Ben off of this, I think Alualu will probably play another year or two. You used to have like Brett Kiesel played. He was 37, 38. We know James Harrison played forever. That is like some exceptions to the rule, but not necessarily when you're talking about guys on defense or guys that didn't get on the field right away. Cam Hayward's 32, Joe Hayden's 32, Vince Williams and David DeCastro 31 apiece. I'm going to boomerang back to Dave because I have something to say about that as well. Chris Boswell's 30 now, and Jordan Berry, if he makes the roster, is 30, and I think B.J. Finney, I don't know when he celebrates his birthday, but he's 29. Everybody else, man, we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players on this pre-camp roster that are 30 or older. Out of, if they all make let's say they all make the roster, even Jordan Berry included here, I don't think that's a very fair assessment of the Steelers. Hanging on to aging veterans in their 30s is risky. There might be some risk with Joe Hayden. That's already been noted. Ben Roethlisberger, we've all been trying to put out the pasture. That could be risky. I don't think Alu or Cam Hayward is in his freaking prime, man. There's just no way. And Vince Williams, I think he's headed on. He's a 10-plus year veteran now. We know who Vince is, and I think he's maybe headed out of the league shortly. He's going to crank out another year or two. I mean, linebackers could play longer. You're hitting instead of being hit. There's still some force there, but it's a little bit different than being a linebacker, right? And then let's see. Chris Boswell, he could probably play till he's 40. So Dave DeCastro, that's what I wanted to talk about. Dave DeCastro. Do we have something about Dave DeCastro here? Earned Pro Bowl honors for the 6th straight year, entering last year of contract. And there's been some talk about Dave maybe sitting out a little bit of minicamp stuff and things like that. He's still a veteran. He still gets some privilege like that. But Trey Turner, a 5-time Pro Bowl guard, was just recently in Pittsburgh, had a visit. I don't know if that's an indicator of David DeCastro's future. Everybody's all of a sudden trying to say, okay, maybe he was banged up last year. Maybe he's looking for retirement. Sorry, I'm going to be moving the mic around for the video, folks, because I'm trying to hold this magazine up in the way, too, and try not be awkward about it. Reading out of a book, it's in the screen and everything else that's here. But David DeCastro, sending him off to early retirement, I think is maybe premature. Is it a concern? Obviously. You know what I mean? Offensive linemen, a lot of guys, they could play into their 30s. I mean, right now, it's just, come on, it's minicamp. Are we really doing this with David DeCastro and kind of putting him out to pasture, saying that he's gone, or could be gone, and that could be a major problem. Maybe he has something lingering, a major injury issue or concern. But at the same time, I'm going to talk about this. The Baltimore Ravens have Kevin Zeitler, who's 31. He turned 31 in March. He's in the same category, same age group as David DeCastro. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, they signed him, even though they lost Marshall Yanda, a fantastic player for many years, franchise guy. I don't know if he's a Hall of Fame or any kind of caliber like that, but Ravens fans aren't going to forget who Marshall Yanda is 10 years from now. He was a very solid hand for that team. Kevin Zeitler going to come in and do the same exact thing? You're hoping so if you're a Ravens fan. I just don't get why you get the same criticism for David DeCastro, who has been there instead of bouncing around several other teams. Does Zeitler not like where he lived? Did he not like his situation? He's been a starter. Was it money? Who knows? But, I mean, there's something obviously there where he hasn't stuck. Cincinnati obviously should have never let the guy go, but a whole other story. So, intangible-wise, yeah, Steelers even. I would have given the Steelers a plus here. They're bringing back, basically the whole core defense. Okay, they're bringing back all the offense. They didn't lose Juju. Their biggest free agent loss, obviously, Bud Dupree. They list all of that here too, additions and subtractions here. It was Ola or Connor, big loss. Jordan Dangerfield, Sean Davis, Jaron Elliott, Matt Filer. He wanted changes on the offensive line, so you got to acknowledge that that's one that had to happen. Mike Hilton, probably a big one. Gerald Hawkins, not so much. Danny Isidora, got a helmet for one game, I think. Vance McDonald retires, replaced with Pat Freiermuth, younger player. Okay, that's a push there. Steven Nelson, that's going to probably hurt. Marquise Pouncey could be a hurt. Alejandro Villanueva, not sold on that hurting at all. Avery Williamson as a guy they traded for and unfairly listed here by his full game and start totals going back with the Jets. So they kind of list that in here as players lost, players returning, starts lost, things of that nature. Steelers are listed as 6 on offense, returning 8 on defense. But the way I really view it is that Cam Sutton started some. Highsmith definitely started. You're getting 9 back, at least with Highsmith. I'd consider him a starter. and Sutton. So you really are you counting Hilton as part of the 11 there? Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If you don't, they're returning 10 on defense, potentially almost 11. If you take the nickel corner out of that situation, Alu comes back there too. Vince Williams didn't end up getting let go all the way. So you'll find some discrepancies. And, of course, when this is printed in June, it can become dated very quickly. That's why I like to grab it right away. And then usually I leaf through it. There's some things that just don't interest me. Sorry, Chargers. It's just like some teams I'm like, I don't, whatever. So this is the thing that gets me. You go through, you're rating the teams. Right off the top, the NFC is at the top of this list here. Dallas Cowboys get an 8 for their coach, an 8.0. It's the same rating that they give the Steelers. They also gave the Washington football team the same score. Tampa gets an 8.5. New Orleans gets an 8.5, but the Steelers get an 8.0. Okay, fine. Seattle gets an 8.5. Pete Carroll's no different than Mike Tomlin as far as early exits and high expectations and being either starting slow or starting strong and ending slow from starting strong or vice versa. It's the same exact thing with the Seahawks. San Francisco an 8. The Rams get an 8. The Rams, man. I mean, I don't know. 8.5 for Buffalo. Yeah, they're very bullish on Buffalo, on the Bills. I get it. I do. But, okay, they got to the AFC title game, but it's been wishy-washy going forward. It's one strong season. I got to see more. At least there's been more consistency there for several years than Cleveland, okay? That's where my sticking point is. New England gets a 9.0. They're the highest grade, other than the Kansas City Chiefs got a perfect 10. A perfect 10. Okay, maybe you're skewing the Steelers because they got a new guy. They got some new guys, Matt Canada, that. But Keith Butler is ranked as one of the highest defensive coordinators. They led the league in sacks 4 years in a row. Like, you know, it bothers me. It does. I read this and I'm just like, they give Baltimore an 8.0 and Steelers an 8.0, but Tomlin and Harbaugh. I don't understand that. Wink Martingale and Greg Roman with the Ravens. You would think the Ravens may even get like a little bit of a higher score. I could have given them an 8.5. Let's be real here. I get it. Matt Canada, first year OC, got to see what he's doing. It's the unknown. Maybe that you slice a little off the score there, but geez, man, it seems a little harsh to put the Ravens and the Steelers coaching staff in the same category as the Cowboys and the Washington football team. Green Bay has a 7.5 for their coaching. Okay, the Saints and the Seahawks and the Buccaneers. Buccaneers won a Super Bowl. Okay. The Cleveland Browns and the Indianapolis Colts both get an 8.0 as well. And, you know, your lowest scores, Detroit gets a 6.0. I think they're the only one with a 6.0. So it kind of gives you, I'm sorry, the Chargers get a 6.0 also. Okay, I see. I hadn't actually looked at the whole composite. I really looked at only the AFC North. What I do is I open straight to the Steelers and see what they're going to say. I could almost do this in the store, but I prefer to take it home and really give it a good, thorough look. And my problems start with how closely rated a lot of this is. Now, the Bengals get a 6.5, so you have 8.0s on the coaches for all the AFC North. The Ravens get an 8.5 at quarterback. Lamar Jackson was an MVP. Ben Roethlisberger, they're really like putting this guy like out the pasture. They give him the same rating, the quarterbacks, an 8.0. Baker Mayfield, Case Keenum is the backup. Not even sure who's the other guy. I almost wanted to say, is that Kyle Lauletta? I think that's who's left. That's, come on. It's just not the same category here. It's really disheartening to see some of just, I don't know who compiles the ratings or who puts the ratings to it. I'm not sure that it's actually, if it's Ray and Ray just does it, but then the other guys do it, then I could see. Because Ray's probably being a little more fair, a little less bullish on it. But then whoever writes, I could tell you who wrote the one for the Browns one. I believe it's another beat writer, Jeff Schudel. So maybe, I don't know if he puts the ratings to this or this is something that Lindy's ends up doing. Yeah, Kyle Lauletta. Wow, not just a hat rack here. You're going to say that's better than what the Steelers have? Even the Ravens at 8.5, they have Trace McSorley as the backup now. RG3 is no longer there. there's a lot of criticism, even within this own book, about the Ravens having the worst pass game in the NFL last year. It's the exact opposite of the Steelers. Though they had the top run game, the Steelers didn't have the top pass game. Steelers had an awful run game. And it's like, well, you do what works for you, I guess. And, they've won games with Lamar, a lot of games with Lamar Jackson, and he's had an MVP. But, Baker's gotten the Browns to the postseason. But I just think sometimes it's a little bit of disrespect for Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, you got a 9-0 for Tampa. You got a 9-0 for Seattle. You got a 9-0 for Green Bay, provided Aaron Rodgers is there. 8-0 for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. 9-0 for Jared Allen and the Buffalo Bills as quarterbacks. A 9-5 for Patrick Mahomes. Okay, all right. Chad Henne, we saw what he ended up doing. It's almost like sheer perfection for some of this, right? The running backs, Cleveland gets a 9-0. That's fair. Okay. Baltimore gets an 8-0. Okay. Mark Ingram's gone, but Mark Ingram was also 31, going on 32 years old or whatever. They still have Gus Edwards, still have Justice Hill. They just drafted somebody else too. J.K. Dobbins, obviously now going to be the centerpiece there. This is a run-first team. The Browns are a run-a-lot first, also with their two-headed monster, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. I should have said that the other way around because Chubb's more the starter than Hunt is at this point. The Steelers are 7-0. I can handle some of that fairness, maybe with the rookies. But I look at some of the other teams that get a 7-0, like Detroit, Philadelphia. The Dolphins are one of the teams that are the lowest, and so are the Bills at 6-5 and 6-0. 6-0 being the Dolphins. And let me see, who else are they comparing to? The Chargers. They got the Chiefs at a 7-0. I don't know. That's kind of weird. Chiefs have a whole stable of guys too. I mean, I was saying Clyde Edwards-Helaire maybe doesn't skew that a little bit more. That's interesting. But the wide receivers, Baltimore has a 7-0. Everyone else in the AFC North a 7-5. Now, I could see putting the Browns, even though my personal feelings of Odell Beckham not being, the player that he had been propped up as with the Giants for all of those years and not putting up huge numbers, particularly receiving touchdowns. He had some yards 1 year. Jarvis Landry catches everything his way. Rashard Higgins has some he's really a hometown favorite because this is a guy that has amazing rapport with and he's basically your slot receiver. But he has amazing rapport with Baker Mayfield, and that's how he's stuck around. They have a whole bunch of wide receivers on this roster. They just drafted Anthony Schwartz. They have Donovan Peoples-Jones. I could get with that. Cincinnati is 7-5. Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase was just drafted. T. Higgins. And then, of course, all the guys with the Steelers. Chase Claypool, Juju. I think 7-5 is too low for all these teams. You got Buffalo at an 8-5. Seattle at an 8. San Francisco at an 8. Tampa at a 9. Dallas at a 9. They really kind of poo-pooed all over the AFC North receivers here. Now, Baltimore at a 7-0. Sorry, man. Sammy Watkins, Hollywood Brown, Rashad Bateman just drafted. There's the same kind of question marks and unknowns. Sammy has really never ascended to be a number one anywhere he's been. Is he still good? Yeah. He kind of gives me the Jadeveon Clowney blues as being a guy that came out of college with a lot of high pedigree. And just has bounced around the league and has put up numbers here or there, and then he's on the bench and he's not available, and then he's back out, has a big game, shows flashes, then disappears. That kind of like that. 10 years in the NFL, he'll make a career out of it, but not making his mark with just one team, not an all-pro, not Hall of Fame, all-time great. You'll remember him, but you're going to remember him more, I think, from what he did in college. It's kind of like Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush played a long time in the NFL and just, you remember Reggie Bush, you're thinking USC, I think. Let's see. Offensive line, Baltimore and Cleveland, 8.5. Baltimore has the same problems as the Steelers. Say it a little louder for those of you in the back. Guard moving to center. Older guard taking place, Kevin Zeitler. Third round rookie pick projected to be the other guard. Left tackle coming off of injury. Ronnie Stanley should be okay. So from what I'm hearing, should be good to go to start training camp. if he has any setbacks, they're really going to be hurting there because their other tackle is Alejandro Villanueva. Everybody panned, complained, whined, pitchforks and torches about the Steelers' offensive line last year. And this guy brings you up to an 8.5? The same thing as Cleveland? I have no problem saying Cleveland has the best line in the NFL, but they gave the Cincinnati Bengals a 6.5 over the Steelers with a 6.0. The Bengals have nothing consistent about their offensive line right now. Okay, they brought in Riley Rife. They still got a lot of young guys. It seems like anybody they draft or that plays center is very inconsistent there. They try and work them out as guards. They can't stay healthy. Billy Price, all these other guys. I'm sorry. That's just rotten. That's just rotten to put the Bengals ahead, even a half point. Yeah, let me pause for 1 second. I understand. All speculative, blah, blah, blah. This is on paper. It's my review of the magazine and my thoughts on their grades, okay? I know it's all kind of BS when you get down to the nitty-gritty of this, and we'll see how it ends up. This is why I keep the back issues. We'll see how it ends up. Maybe I'll do a review of the 2020 issue for the, and look back on it in some retrospect and see who was really good where. Steelers defensive line put up there with Baltimore as an 8-0. I think both of those should be a little higher. We're talking about Brandon Williams, Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe when he's healthy. I've always liked Derek Wolfe, but the guy has trouble staying on the field. I really think that the 8-0 is just not right there. 7-5 for Cleveland. You get that skewed. You get that put up there on the pedestal with Myles Garrett. They're still factoring Clowney and Malik Jackson in on that. Andrew Billings coming off the COVID year. That might be fair. I'd even say 7-0. Cincinnati gets a 6-0, and that one's just merited. It doesn't seem like they like to give anybody less than a 6, which makes this all very deceiving as you look around. Washington football team, of course, has the 9-0 with Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and all those studs. That's one heck of a defensive line they put together there. Linebackers, 7-5 for Baltimore, 8-0 for the Steelers as a refresher. Maybe. Okay. Matt Judon left. You still have Patrick Queen. Yeah, okay. I can maybe get sold on Baltimore with their linebackers being there. Cleveland has a 6, which that's the first time. And I have been down on the Cleveland linebacking core, but bringing in Walker and drafting JOK, they have him right here with the Bengals. So if you're listening, my guys, I don't want to call him my troll. He's been fun so far. But we talk about these things in my circles too with my family and friends that are the Browns fans. Baltimore has a 9 for their secondary. Yeah, okay, the guy that stepped in for Earl Thomas last year did a pretty admirable job. You got Marcus Peters. You've got, I wanted to say Jimmy Smith. That's not the guy I'm looking for. He's still there, though. He's still there. So they have depth. I think that's kind of fair. Maybe more than fair. They create a lot of turnovers. Marlon Humphrey, by the way, is the name. It came to me like a few minutes ago, but I'm fired up over here. Let me see what else I wanted to see. Hopefully this is still. I was trying to find out who else. Deshaun Elliott and Chuck Clark. Okay, doesn't really sound the same as Earl Thomas and Eric Weddle. Tavon Young, their corner. He's the nickel guy, the Mike Hilton spot, the former Mike Hilton for the Steelers. Now over with the Bengals. A 9. It's based on those two corners. I always think sometimes that Peters is a little bit of a lazy player. Humphrey is a stud. There's no denying that. But I think there's a little bit of legacy here, even going back to Ed Reed. I think Jimmy Smith was still playing, when Ed Reed was a rookie. Jimmy Smith's been around forever, man. But that secondary is a 9-0. They gave the Browns a 7-5. And this is what I was getting at. They got the Steelers and Bengals both at 6.5. You got Minka Fitzpatrick and Jesse Bates, probably two of the best safeties in the NFL. I know I got into some hot water talking about Jesse Bates last year. And my whole comment about that was that while he stands out, if you put him on a team that actually had other defenders around him, would he still stand out as much? And, he's still a good player, but now some people are blowing smoke up that he's even bigger than what maybe he might be. We'll leave it. I think they're two different style players. It's kind of like the old Ed Reed versus Troy Polamalu conversation. You can't fairly compare Jesse Bates and Minka, other than to say 6.5 is just stupid. when the Cleveland Browns at a 7.5 have Denzel Ward, who has his own injury problems. You got Greedy Williams, who hasn't been able to stay on the field. Grant Delpit, who didn't play last year as a safety. They bring in, John Johnson III or whatever. And I almost want to say Jack Johnson because of the pen. So if I have a slip of the tongue, I apologize in advance. But they bring him in as a high-priced free agent. All of a sudden, that's supposed to catapult everything. And I just don't see how that's better than Joe Hayden and Minkah Fitzpatrick. Troy Hill as a nickel corner. Okay, you can maybe sell me on that a little bit, but if Cam Sutton ends up being the nickel corner, that's a wash also. Terrell Edmonds is better than Grant Delpit at this point. You have to see Grant do something. You have to see Greg Newsome or Greedy Williams do something. They got a lot of high picks invested here, but not so many high picks that you put them at a 7.5. 7, I could live with that. Steelers at a 7. Cincinnati should get a 7 as well. I know they lost William Jackson, WJ3 there, but they still have, aside from signing Mike Hilton, Chidobe Uwozi, and then Von Bell, Trey Waynes. They still got they're trying. Eli Apple's on this roster. We'll see if he's going to be a retread, see if they get anything out of him. There's a lot of talent there that I may even want to nudge the Bengals just a little bit higher. I'd maybe even put them a half point higher than the Steelers. I'd even put them in the 7-5 category over the Browns. I think people think that might be nuts, but these secondaries are better than 9-0 for Baltimore. Might be a little high. I think if you put them all these teams in the 7 to 8 range here, would be fair. 6.5 is just too low for the Steelers and the Bengals. The special teams play. The Baltimore Ravens get an 8.5. Sam Cook, he's been around 15, 16 seasons. Justin Tucker, obviously one of the best kickers in the league. Cleveland gets a 6. They still rolling with Austin Seibert. I was trying to remember. No, they got the guy that's right, Cody Parkey. Yeah, that was the other guy. No, Seibert's with somebody else now. Jamie Gillum, he's going to be entering his 3rd year as a kicker. The Browns are bringing another guy to camp called Chase McLaughlin as a kicker also. They got Cleveland pretty low here as for special teams. Also, kick returns. Donovan Peoples-Jones was doing all right with that, I want to say. Steelers are 7. Ravens get the 8.5 because of Tucker. I think the Steelers could be a 7.5. Cincinnati, got to be a typo here. Special teams, 8.5. I want to see what they had to say about their special teams. I keep leafing around in here, so I apologize. There's just no better or more efficient way to do this. I'd have like little folded corners and post-it notes, like 30 of them in here. Their special teams units, one of the ranked in the top 10 of the past 3 seasons, according to Football Outsiders. And they lost Alec Erickson, so they need a new punt returner. They're hoping the 5th-round pick, Evan McPherson, is going to do that, or is expected to win the kicker job over Austin Seibert. I'm sorry, McPherson, the kicker. So they're looking for a new punt returner, and I was trying to see who they had penciled in as that. Mike Thomas, he's a former Rams player. And he was originally, played on offensive special teams in 14 games as his first season with the Bengals. Or maybe they have, I don't know, do they risk having one of these other top flight wide receivers? They have Darius Phillips also, who's a cornerback. So that seems a little shaky to me. They still have Kevin Huber. He's been around 13 years. He had a career highs in averages, and he's like the all-time franchise leader with anything with punts. They have the decent veteran long snapper, but 8.5. Yikes! That's too rich for my blood. I guess they had to give him like a high mark somewhere, but I just don't get it. You have the intangibles. The Ravens get a +1 because they finally won a playoff game. The Browns finally get to the playoffs and they win a game. They get a +1. The Bengals have a +1. Burrow's leadership and ability to inspire his teammates is something the Bengals could count on making a positive impact. Burrow. +1. Zach Taylor's on the hot seat in the same issue. That's even for me, at the very least. The Steelers get an even. So the overall ratings, finally, when we tally all of this together, the Steelers are at a 66-0. The Bengals are 63.5. You have the Browns at 69.0. Nice. 3 points higher than the Steelers. And the Ravens are a 74. The Ravens are higher than all but one other team in this entire listing. and that is the defending Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are a 76. The Bills are at 71, and the Chiefs are at 72.5. Those are the only other teams that have sniffed a 70 score. The Chiefs, I think, deservingly so. The Bills might be a little bit bullish. I think that's 76 for Tampa Bay. They're bringing everybody back, and they won the Super Bowl. So it's hard to argue, but geez, oh man. You have the Ravens higher than the Chiefs, and you got the Browns, almost sniffing a 70 here, a 69. I'm trying to see. San Francisco at a 69. They don't ever stay healthy. The Seahawks 69.5. And you dogged the Steelers down to a 66. And just the things that go on in Seattle, and they've had some offensive line issues over the years. They got some change of the guard there with defense and everything else too. It makes it a bitter pill to swallow sometimes when you read some of the things that are in this issue or in this book. And the one thing that they have in here now, the draft they actually liked. They gave the Steelers an A-. And just a real short, I'm not going to read every single player here, but they said a good move was a very much like the first 4 picks, all of whom fit needs. Najee Harris will move right into the starting lineup. That means they also like Freiermuth, Kendrick Green, and Dan Moore Jr. to tackle out of Texas A&M. Tell me why. No quarterback to at least groom behind Big Ben. Can't keep delaying it. Stop with the nonsense. I'm not going to get into this today. I promised myself I wasn't going to talk about Mason or Dwayne Haskins or drafting. Go back and listen to one of the other shows. How can you like the first 4 picks and then complain about a quarterback? What are they supposed to do? Do 5th-round quarterback that's never going to even take a snap? Then it's a wasted pick. At least they gave it an A-, right? Could surprise. Sure, we're going out on a limb, but Harvin, the punter, could be a real weapon at Heinz Field, especially in the winter. I absolutely love reading that. We have one more section here. Aside from the ratings, they also rank NFL's best players in units. And they break this up to so many different categories. Quarterbacks they have in the pocket, on the move. They have the backups. Don't worry, none of the Steelers' backups are listed here. Ben Roethlisberger is listed 7th here, with Baker Mayfield at an 8. That's what makes me, wonder here. The backups, it's not like any of the other backups in the AFC North are listed either, but the Steelers at that quarterback rating are a little lower. Excuse me. Wide receivers, the number ones, I don't think they know if there's a number 1 with the Steelers or not. Odell Beckham, 16th on this list. As I'm perusing, I'll bring up some of the guys from around the AFC North. Jarvis Landry's in with the 2s at number 4. Marquise Brown, number 8. Chase Claypool all the way down at number 13, behind A.J. Green in Arizona, who I don't expect to catch 30 passes this year. Sterling Shepard with the New York Giants. It's just some disgusting names. The 2s, by the way, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, Tyler Lockett, Jarvis Landry, Cooper Kupp, CeeDee Lamb, Chris Godwin, Hollywood Brown with the Ravens, Brandon Ayuk with the 49ers, Robbie Anderson, A.J. Green, Sterling Shepard, Chase Claypool, followed by Mike Williams and Tyler Boyd. Holy crap, is that some disrespect for Tyler Boyd. I don't just say this because he's a former Pittsburgh college guy. I do. I have a tremendous amount of respect. I think Tyler Boyd is an excellent wide receiver in the NFL. Just the old Rodney Dangerfield can't get no respect. The 3s, Deontay Johnson listed here at number 4. Of the 3s, they have Antonio Brown listed number 1 overall. Father Time's going to be catching up with him, 32, 33 years old. Michael Gallup, there's some real Cowboys homers that write this rag. Cole Beasley, a former Cowboys, number 3 in there. T. Higgins is listed at 4 or 5, right behind Deontay. But I did not see Juju Smith-Schuster listed here whatsoever. And I don't know if they consider him a 1, and they don't consider him any better than, Kenny Galladay is listed here at 18 with the Giants. DJ Moore is 17. They still have Julio Jones. This was printed with him still with the Falcons, so it gives you an idea of how quickly things could be dated. Devontae Parker, Robert Woods. I'm still looking. I'm like, where is Juju Smith-Schuster? He is not on here. Guy almost had 1,000 yards and led the team in receptions, and you can't. Baloney. You can't put. He's not a top 20 receiver on any of these lists. I guess you put Chase Claypool as a 2. I think Chase Claypool will be the 1, by the way, and I think it's more scheme. Although Deontay Johnson could be 2. It's more Steelers scheme that Juju may be operating more out of the slot and isn't wide receiver 1 material there. Maybe they're thinking the same way I am. I don't know. Tight ends, you're not going to find it here with the ones. Obviously, George Kittle is listed number 1. Real love affair for him, and the tight end U that's going on too. He's like 40 tight ends or something coming out. That's kind of cool. It's like a symposium thing. Hopefully it was approved by the league and it isn't some COVID thing that gets all these guys in trouble. Nothing really listed here for the twos. I thought for sure Eric Ebron was listed in here, but I guess not. The passing games ranked by team, AFC best, Kansas City, Buffalo, Chargers, Browns, Steelers, Ravens. For passing game, the Ravens 5th overall in the AFC, top 10 in the NFL. That's kind of surprising. Running backs, let me see. I don't think you get Najee in here just yet. Nick Chubb is listed 5th after Henry, Kamara, McCaffrey, and Cook. Fair enough. Aaron Jones right behind him. Makes plenty of sense. J.K. Dobbins is 10. Joe Mixon is 15th. Gus Edwards is the top of the twos, but they gave the Browns a much higher running back rating. Kareem Hunt's listed as 2nd on this list as well. Fullbacks, Derek Watt is listed 4th. Running game AFC best, Cleveland number 1. I'm not going to argue with that one. Tennessee Titans number 2, Baltimore number 3. Well, I could argue. You could make an argument for the Ravens. All 3 of those teams are pretty stacked. Indianapolis is 4 and Denver's 5. Denver's kind of interesting. I don't know. Offensive tackles, we're not getting much of anywhere. Ronnie Stanley's 5th here. I'm not going to go into the AFC North, guys. Let's see if I can find any Steelers players on the offensive line list. I do believe David DeCastro they have ranked as the 2nd overall right guard in the entire league, with Wyatt Teller right behind him and Kevin Zeitler at 3 and 5 respectively. Center-wise, I know that the Browns are on here. J.C. Tretter's number 7. So the offensive lines, they rank the Browns number 1 in the AFC and the Ravens number 2. Kind of interesting. You get into the defense, we have some interesting rankings. I'm going to get out of the 4-3 and get down to the 3-4. This is pretty cool. Cam Hayward is listed as the 2nd best 3-4 defensive lineman in their rankings, second only to Aaron Donald. Wow, that's some respect. Stephon Tuitt is 7th here, and they have the Steelers as the top defensive line in the AFC, followed by the Ravens at number 2 and the Browns at number 3. You see why we're thinking this is going to be like a pretty the old pro wrestling slobber knocker, Donnybrook this year in the AFC North. Best in the trenches, offense and defense combined. They say that the Browns have the best in the entire NFL on both sides. I strongly disagree with that. I'm also with the Baltimore Ravens. The defensive line kind of skews that as the offensive line does for the Browns. They have San Francisco and Tampa Bay in there. Tampa Bay has to be number 1. They have to be. They haven't lost anyone. That defensive line was stellar, and so was their offensive line. They got veterans and guys on rookie contracts. They got lightning in a bottle right now. That's New England's in here too with a lot of their free agents. 3-4 outside linebacker TJ Watt, number 1 overall. Bud Dupree, former Steeler, and his new teammate in Tennessee, Harold Landry, are 11th and 12th. Let's see, 3-4 inside linebackers. Devin White, number 3. And Devin Bush, number 5. Those guys are going to be forever linked together for a long time, I think. Steelers come out as the 2nd best linebacker core in the AFC. The cornerback situation, the Ravens have Marcus Peters all the way down as the ones here, as the number 1, cornerback ones. He's down here at number 11 with Joe Hayden at 13. The Browns actually have Denzel Ward higher than both of them at 8. Intriguing stuff, man. Intriguing stuff. Marlon Humphrey gets number 2 overall as the 2s behind J.C. Jackson from the Patriots. Steelers aren't going to list someone there, but Minkah Fitzpatrick listed as the number 1 overall free safety with Jesse Bates, number 4, following Derwin James. A lot of health issues there. And Budda Baker. I would have put Budda Baker 2nd, personally. Justin Simmons from the Broncos, who we keep bringing up a lot of times, is ranked 5th here. We do not have another safety in the AFC North listed here, although I got the 2 primary ones, the strong safeties. John Johnson is listed 5th overall from the Cleveland Browns. Chuck Clark, number 8. That only goes out to about a top 10 with a few players tied here. So secondaries, they give the Ravens the second best in the AFC behind the Miami Dolphins. Browns are not in this top 5. Skill position-wise, the Steelers end up ranking 9th overall with all of the skill positions according to their rankings. The Baltimore Ravens are number 3. Best overall units in the NFL, ranked 5th is the Cleveland running game. The Ravens secondary is 8th. The Steelers do not list with the best overall unit. I think that's kind of ridiculous, but the defensive line only lists once here, and that's with the Washington football team as 4th. Best offensive teams, NFL best, Tampa Bay, Kansas City, Cleveland, Green Bay, Baltimore. I'll reserve further comment on that. Best defensive teams, Tampa Bay, Baltimore. That's intentional silence. I'm sorry. Some of you can't see me. You're listening on the audio-only version. Tampa Bay, Baltimore. NFL best defensive teams, Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Denver, Chicago, New York Giants, San Francisco 49ers, New England Patriots at 7, Miami Dolphins, Washington football team, 2 tied at 10, Minnesota Vikings, Los Angeles Rams. Best defensive teams. The Pittsburgh Steelers are not even considered out of 11. They have 2 tied for 10 here. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me with this? Man, Denver, that seems bullish to me, really. It really does. This is so ridiculous. That's why I get a little fired up on here. Some look ahead. They got a lot of cool stuff in here. I don't know that they have the full predictions for the year. I remember I was leafing through trying to find that earlier, and I don't want to waste anyone's time here. I think it's time to put a bow on my review of the Lindy's Pro Football 2021 preview. It's something, like I said, I do this every single year. I'm still going to try and see if they have the full-on predictions. I don't think they made them this year, which is quite odd. But almost every year they're picking the Ravens to win this thing. And the one year they didn't even make the playoffs. Oh, here we go. Super Bowl. How about a Super Bowl rematch? So there is a little bit of respect here. I'll read off the AFC North. Baltimore becoming a more consistent passer is what the Ravens need from Lamar Jackson. The Browns, this roster is loaded, and the 2020 season showed what the Browns are capable of doing. Yeah, forget that they played a weak schedule too, right? The Pittsburgh Steelers, is it Ben Roethlisberger's swan song? We don't know. He needs Najee Harris to get them higher than this, so they have them 3rd. And then Cincinnati, it's difficult to make a move in this deep and talented division. That's very true. They have Cleveland and Pittsburgh and the Patriots as wild card teams. Kansas City versus Baltimore in the AFC title game. I haven't even read this yet. Super Bowl being played in Hollywood. This time Patrick Mahomes gets the best of TB12 in Tinseltown. A rematch. That's very plausible. I actually like that prediction. I can even see the Ravens getting into there. I mean, that's all a possibility. But once again, $11 if you want the whole thing. They did not pay me for this. I did not get a free issue. This is just my love of reading the preseason football guides. I feel this is the best of them. So there's no shameless plugs here. That's reserved for the Chase Claypool camp at chaseclaypoolcamp.com. Promo code Steel City. Plug it for you one more time. Appreciate everyone. I appreciate your support. Hopefully we can get more of these shows out for you. I'm going to try and see if I can get either the other boneheads here with me. My brothers, I love them, but we've been all over the map when it comes to scheduling. So look forward for some more stuff, some training camp previews. We still have some stuff to say about the Steelers rookies and some other topics that are coming up in the near future here. So until next time, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. My name is Joe Kuzma, and I love all of you. Thank you, 2%ers who are still hanging around to the end of this show. I encourage you fine folks out there, as always, to be safe, be good, and we'll definitely catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.